Hi, my name is Thomas Balmes. I'm the director of Babies, a movie which will be released on Mother's Day, May 7, and you're watching MummyCast.
Mama, don't you know you keep the whole world turning round?
Welcome, Erica. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so sometimes my 3-year-old, it's hard to get him engaged in reading. What are some tips on that?
Okay, I have great tips on that. First of all, I like to keep books everywhere in our house. I like to keep books, in the kitchen, in the dining room, in the bathroom, everywhere, so that kids just have an opportunity to grab them and to have access to them. And it's not like the books have to be on the special shelf.
Right.
So having a lot of books around, both so that your kids can have access to them and also so that you can pick up on what your kid's interested in and what times they might want to go curl up with a book. Other thing is when you have a moment where either your kid has picked up something and they want to look at it, or you think it might be a good time to just unwind with a book. One thing that I suggest, and I have a book of mine, Chicken Bedtime is Really Early, which we can use as an example, is rather than sitting them down and making an announcement, now we're going to read a book, particularly if you have a child who's resistant in some way, sitting down and just getting into a conversation, engaging them about the book, like, what do you think's going on here? And a lot of times if I'm reading this to kids, they'll say, oh, this chicken, he's running away. Well, why do you think he's doing that? It's bedtime. What do you think's going on? Oh, he doesn't want to go to bed. Yeah, do you ever not want to go to bed? Remember last night when you didn't want to go to bed?
Right.
If I had been, I'm this chicken, you're that chicken. And you just start a little conversation, and all of a sudden they're not paying so much attention to it's book time, it's reading time, you're making me sit down.
Right.
All of a sudden they're in there and they're playing a game with you.
That makes me think, because you know what I did do the other night was he has like a stuffed animal monkey with Velcro hands, and he sleeps on the lower bunk. And so I Velcroed the monkey to the upper bunk and started reading to him.
Oh, that's great. That's an excellent idea.
And John was like, well, me too.
That's an excellent idea. It's really good because a lot of times you can say, hey, Monkey wants to read a story.
Yeah, Monkey is so good. I totally love Monkey so much more than you.
Yeah.
We always made the guinea pig our reading buddy.
Oh, that's great.
And
that's a
so
good idea.
it was an opportunity to read a book, but also an opportunity to hold the guinea pig and pet the guinea pig, because the guinea pig was the reading buddy.
So long as
and then
what you
eventually
wanted to
the
do
guinea
is hold
pig
them.
became the homework buddy.
Yep.
Really?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that was Scampers.
Miss Scampers.
I know.
The other thing I was going to say is that if you sometimes a really hard time to engage toddlers in reading books is if there's a new baby. And one tip that was shared with me when I had my second child is the baby doesn't care. Baby is along for the ride. So you can literally set a book down on top of the baby.
Yeah.
You're nursing the baby, you're feeding the baby,
Yeah.
put
You
the book on the baby. Baby doesn't
Baby
care.
doesn't care.
And all of a sudden, rather than saying to your slightly older child, you have to wait, I'm taking care of the baby.
I can't pay attention to you because
all of
I've
a
got the
sudden it's a
baby.
very important time.
Right.
Your book is much more important.
Well, I think also a lot of times the children, when they get to be 3, the time when the second child would be coming around 3, 4 years old, they have a lot of these books memorized, even if they can't read. And so if you ask them to read a book to the baby.
Yeah, and it's an important responsibility. Sometimes suddenly they're the expert reading to the baby, and no one needs to correct them that they're not reading it right.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just should
That
go
was
ahead
like the
and
best thing that ever happened, because my kids are all 3 years apart. So when my oldest was in first grade and reading really well, and I needed to cook dinner, I killed 2 birds with one stone, because he had to read. He had assigned reading time, and the little kids needed to be read too.
Yeah.
So he read to them for the half hour that it took me to get dinner together.
Yeah, it's terrific
And
to
then I
be
was
able to involve kids in that way.
I think there are probably some techniques also that you can use when you're actually reading to your child that can help to engage them and help them learn some of the early reading techniques.
Exactly. One thing I can show you is sometimes if I'll read with a child, particularly if I'm reading with just one child, I will always take them on my lap or just kind of use it as an opportunity to cuddle up. If I'm reading to a larger group of kids, I'll usually hold the book like this and do a read aloud like this. It is really hard to read upside down.
Yeah, it is.
So, to the extent that you can read it like that without flipping back and forth, it's often good to do so, because
Yes.
otherwise, you're always
You
breaking
lose your
away.
audience that way,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to the extent that you can keep the pictures in front of the book, terrific. And then usually as I'm going along, I'll read part of the page, and then I'll ask for the kids to do different things. Like in this book, there are clocks hidden in the book. And even for a kid who can't tell time,
They can
you know, they
recognize
know what
the
a clock looks like, they can recognize it, and then all of a sudden they're looking for hidden things in the book. And so immediately they're just that much, you know, they literally move in closer and start staring at the pictures in a different way, and they go in and they find the clock, and then they feel such a sense of accomplishment, and then you keep going.
Well, I just found the clock and I felt a sense of
Yeah,
accomplishment.
well, some of these you may not be able to. They're pretty tricky. You know, you need eagle eyes. So oftentimes as I'm reading to kids also, I will go ahead and I'll pause before the rhyme and see if the kids chime in. And even if they don't know that what they're doing is identifying a rhyme, they're in their head it just sort of clicks. They sort of they hear that a sound is coming that sounded like something, and from the context they'll understand what kind of word it's going to be, and they'll predict it exactly. And that's another terrific opportunity to really just praise them for what they're doing. These are all, you know, pre-literacy skills.
Right.
One thing that I like to do, especially with as the child gets a little older and moves towards reading, is to actually move my finger along as I'm saying the words, so they really start to get that recognition of the words. And like I said before, a lot of times they'll have these books pretty much memorized, so they'll know what word comes next. But if you have your finger under it,
Then
and
they
you say,
know what
okay,
that word looks like.
so what is that word? They'll say chicken, and it really does help with the early
Well, and
reading.
she knows what she's talking about too, because when Avery started reading when he was 4, 3.
Wow.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
was
he
reading
was
words
really-
like he was eating breakfast at my house and he was going, Lucky Charms, 9 essential vitamins and minerals, and I was like, what the? This kid can't tie his shoes yet, you know.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff really does reinforce everything, because just having your finger there, knowing that that's the word that's coming because you've heard the book a couple of times, all those things will really just, they go in there, and whether it's 3 or 4 or later on, they click at a certain point.
My husband, when Taylor was first born, my husband would hold him and read the Wall Street Journal to him out loud.
Yeah.
And the kid has a phenomenal
There
vocabulary.
you go.
So anyway, well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here. This has
Thank
been
you for having
great.
me.
For more information on Erica Perl or reading to your small children, visit our website at mommycast.com.
Mama, don't you know you keep the whole world turning round?
I heard a children's book author say, I just want to say to people like Madonna, I
Yeah.
won't make music if you won't write books.
It's so true. It is so true. Some of them do it well. Like there are a couple of exceptions to that,
It's
but
like,
it's
stop
by and large.
invading my
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.